We're going to start.
Estamos listos, ¿verdad? Muy bien.
We are ready for our roundtable, virtual roundtable. Welcome, everybody, with the people of Marfund. We are going to celebrate today's World Ocean Day. Thank you very much for being with us. So, welcome. Thank you very much for accompanying us in our special event to commemorate the Ocean World Day. We have special panel discussions with our invited guests. They're going to be talking about restoring the Mesoamerican Reef. We protect our future. Welcome once again. These are general instructions. If you need translation in the Zoom controls, go on to the language you would like to do it in the language you'd like to listen to, and if you go to the made or the original audio, that's without the translation. Presentations today will be in Spanish. First off, with the panelists that will be speaking in English. That we've already welcomed everybody. Welcome again for those that have just joined us, and more instructions for be able to listen to us. We are going to have a presentation of the event. It's important that the ocean is important, so we're going to have an activity with the public. We're going to have the presentation of the panelists and their presentations, and we're going to have a halfway through, we're going to have a short recess so that you can go and stretch your legs, get a glass of water or whatever you need. And then we're going on to a discussion panel with the panelists with directed questions and questions from the public. So you don't, we'll be able to do it inside the tray of presents. And we're going to slow with thanks and an activity with the public. Please, we have some basic law regulations. Please have the learning and respect. Put off your mics and your cameras. You will not be able to speak, and we will give the panelists all their say. So please put your full name, your organization and country in your chat, and you can ask all your questions in Zoom. And if you are directing it particularly to somebody, please do include who you want to direct your question to. And if in your book like, you can also go into the comments for your questions. At the end of presentations, we're going to go into questions and answers to be able to give the panelists time to be able to answer. So therefore, we're going to start with a short energizer. Today is the World Day of the Oceans. And the slogan for 2023 is Oceanic Planet, the currents are changing. So we must have to do what we have to maintain. So I've noticed that you have Mentimeter. You can go into that on the chat. If Carla if you can help me on this regard, www.minti.com, or access with the web page www.menti.com and put in the code, which is 26190614. So therefore, I'm going to put in the energizer, the little game for today. These are the instructions for the game, as you can see them. Go into menti.com, .com, .com, And we've already perhaps some participants in this page. Okay, ready? Okay. So what is for you the ocean? What is for you? What is the ocean for you? You put in a word and start writing. It's peace, it's life. What else is the ocean? Just one was bounty, resources, diversity, it's tranquility, equilibrium, serenity. Yes, true. And also the risk is life. Life allows us to have life on this planet. Very good, very good. Inspiring movement, very good. We can continue. I'm going to go on to the next step. What benefits does the ocean bring us? What do you think? What benefit? What does the ocean give to us? What? It's again starting with life. Very good. Absorption of CO2, a stable climate, oxygen, food, a stable climate, income. It's very important to have all this. Very good. Excellent. Climate regulation, income. We have economic benefits as well. And at last, which country of the Ma do you want to visit soon? We have Honduras, Panama, Belize. Okay. Nobody wants to come visit me in Guatemala, she says. Okay, so we see we're between Belize and Honduras, and we're going to have a lot of tourists going in these countries very soon because we're going to be expecting you in all the rest of the countries as well. So thank you very much. So you can continue playing if you'd like. Which are the countries that have you not visited yet, of the Mar countries you've not visited? What threat does the ocean face? So without taking much time off, we are going to start putting it down. But before that, we have already contamination. I want to remind everybody, why is it important? Why is the ocean important? We have to put the ocean first. We must have presence in the ocean. We must act, and of course, particularly in the organization, it's the frame is of the 10-year of science in oceanic science in the organization, right? And remember that the importance that ocean is life, and the purpose of this is to inform on the impact that we have as humans on the ocean. We must also make a world movement to develop sustainability of our seas and oceans. So we've seen it that the ocean gives us many benefits, and they're very important. It gives us CO2 absorption. It gives us food, many whims. It's a fountain or a source of protein for the world population. It's part of the biodiversity of so therefore we must protect it because it has many, many threats like climate change, destruction of habitat, contamination, also the overfishing, and very, very weak governance. So what do we have to do for the future? We know that the conference of the United Nations in biological diversity, COP15, took place in December of 22 in Montreal. What happened? We were able to come up with 4 goals and 23 objectives. One of these we are talking about directly. We're talking about oceans. Uh, um, we're talking about coral reefs. We're talking about coastal areas. So it's a high percentage. It's 30% of 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 the land with the 70% of the oceans, right? So we must work with the ecosystemic systems now. The objectives of the COP, we have to restore at least 30% of the terrestrial ecosystems, the continental waters, coasts, and the degraded marine life. And we must give service to this ecosystem. We must have to do this. We have to have funds to be able to do so. So we must have increased substantially the funds that we have to do so. So that's why the guest for us of the funds of the MAR fund is today's is to show how we are going with the donations and with others supporting these projects for the for being able to doing these COP objectives so that we have.
So today we have 9 very important panelists. We have the science master, Baruch Figueroa Zavala. He's a coordinator of the Coastal Ecosystem Program from Acumal Ecological Center in Mexico. For more than 12 years, he has worked in monitoring program of reefs. And from 2015, he's been working on coral restoration. He is in charge of research, monitoring of ecosystem, coral restoration, and also training personnel in marine ecology. And he is a certified agri-healthy reef capacitator and MAR methods. He's going to talk about integrated coral restoration. We also have a master in science, Blanca Alicia Quiroga Garcia. She's a director of the protected natural parks of Cozumel, protected flora and fauna of Cozumel Island. She's worked in several projects and studies of monitoring, investigating species and marine ecosystems, and she's going to talk about collective and integration in Cozumel. We also have Cristina Cortez Gomez. She's a coordinator of collective coral, live coral in Mexico. She's industrial designer and she's a master in sustainable development, a doctorate. Sorry. She's working on management and integrated restoration of coastal areas with communities and tourist cooperatives, fishing cooperatives in the Mexican Caribbean. She's going to talk about the coastal integrated communities as a solution. We also have the biologist Sara Gutierrez from the National Institute of Fishing and Aquaculture in Mexico, in Apes. She's worked for 4 years in the reef restoration, in charge of producing coral and the king crab. She's a brigadier instructor. She has been a leader of the brigades of Puerto Loredos, and she's going to talk about the experiences that have been had with a stony coral tissue loss disease. We also have Dr. Anastasia Teresa Banashak. She's titled B researcher from the Autonomous Mexico University in Mexico since 1999, focused on studying the reproduction of invertebrates and applying this knowledge to restoring reefs. She's going to present restoring with coral. and Melina Soto, who is a Science Master Coordinator for Mexico of Healthy Reef Initiative, in charge of strengthening collaboration between partners, organizes training, workshops, monitoring, and works on the Healthy Reef reports and participates in pilot projects with citizen participation, public policy to improve conditions of the coral reefs and the communities that depend on them. She's going to talk about helping the corals of the mar, restoring the conditions, favorable conditions. Juan Carlos Utron Baca, Director, Ancla Marina, Mexico. He's a diving instructor, science diver, certified diver, with Doctora Claudia Padilla, who's not going to be here today because of an urgent field trip. We will have Sara in her place. And this is what we have to consider, that each one of us has a lot of work to do. We're all working for protection and conservation of our corals. So she's been working on the action program for conservation of the Acropora palmata and cervicornis in Mexico. And she's also a professor and titled instructor of the brigade courses of post-storm rescue. We're also going to have the science master, Dominique Lisama, program director for conservation of Belize Audubon Society. And ella
on project management for key conservation targets and contributing information for adaptive management. Also, she participates in community outreach and environmental education activities. And she will present for us addressing the impact of stony coral tissue loss disease on Lighthouse Reef Atoll in Belize. Y por último, la licenciada Laura Sandí.
finally, licenciada Laura Saldivar will not be present, but she's sending a video, which I will present in a few seconds. She's coordinator of the program of the Association for Conservation of the Bay Islands, BICA, Guanaja, and she started as a volunteer with BICA Guanaja in 2012 with reforestation of the mangroves. She also is an environmental educator. She fosters protection and conservation of natural resources on the island. She's going to present the importance of the restoration of the reefs for the island communities. So thank you very much to our panelists. I will show you our first presentation video, and then we will continue with the next panelists. Te escucho. Ya lo pusieron.
¿Nadie más escucha? No, no es.
Okay, so we're going to move on with Baruch. And I apologize, she says, for the delay with the video. So I'm going to share the presentation. All right. Thank you, Elisa. Thank you for Marfan for the invitation to this forum to celebrate Ocean Day. Good morning to all. And it's a pleasure for me to be here today and talk a little bit about the restoration project in Acomal, Quintana Roo, Mexico. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how this project started. And basically, Acomal is the first tourist site in Quintana Roo. And as all the other sites in this area, it has grown very quickly in the last 40 years. And it is a tourist destiny that has a great population of marine turtles, which has become a very, very famous place at world level. And this has led to a growth in tourism, and the activities are optimally managed in the area. This has provoked actually a change in the system. The quality of the water has been deteriorating because of all the access of people, the many people that access this area. And we have also seen these effects directly or observed in the coral reef. And within its activities, we have been monitoring the reef since 2006. And through this research, we have been observing a very fast deterioration, especially in the municipal areas with the different types of coral. And because of this, in 2012, when I came into this project, we started a project of coral restoration to start to mitigate this deterioration as much as we could. So we started at the beginning with a very small effort, saving some of the corals, setting up a small nursery to stabilize them, and advancing in this restoration together with a Mexican NGO. And we started learning these techniques of restoration together. And by 2018, 2019, we started a formal project in Acomal with financing from Marfan, by the way. And we started partnerships and alliances that were quite fruitful with Healthy Reefs, Pesca, and other local partners, and international too. So we were able to start to become much more efficient in the restoration process. Our nurseries became more efficient. We started having more massive planting of coral. And then, of course, thanks to these alliances, particularly with Pesca, who proportioned materials that they are preparing in their labs. And this interaction, well, thanks to this, we were able to plant thousands of corals in all of these areas. And this work is continuing. It continued in the second year and phase 2. Our focus once we learned the know-how of coral restoration, we focused on generating a strong organic linkage to the local community. And so my idea has that the social component is very important to become close to the actors and to reach appropriation, to eventually have them become owners or appropriate the project themselves. And raising the awareness on the restoration and on the reef health of the reef. And we were able to actually see a restoration committee. This damage that we were talking about, the idea has been to make the evaluation a little more robust of the efficiency, to show the efficiency of our restoration through the implementation of several techniques and strengthening community integration with a restoration plan to be able to have sustainable restoration, community appropriation of the project, and basically the functional recuperation of the functions and the ecosystemic functions. And basically what we have achieved during these 4 or 5 years is that we've been able to plant 9,000 fragments in the Akumal area, and a lot of strategic alliances that thanks to these, we have been able to implement all of these efforts, and effort with a survivance of for 70%, but it could be better, but the environmental conditions are quite complicated. We have the coral bleaching, we have predators, etc. So also I'm going to show you as an example the increase in coral coverage increase from 5 to 13 to 14% of coverage increase, which is quite favorable. And we're excited that the results are so visible. And so this would just the general aspects of the project, and to tell you that this is a decade of restoration, and we have to all get to work from at our, and if you would like to accompany us in any of our restoration projects, it would be wonderful. And thank you very much. Thank you very much, Baruch. Presentation moved by itself. It wasn't me. Sorry. Okay. We are now going to continue with Blanca. Working together. And there is space in our organization for working together.
Well, thank you very much, Elisa. Welcome, everybody, and good morning, and thank you, everybody, for this invitation. Next slide, please. Thank you. On this occasion, we're going to talk a little bit about restoring that we've done in Cozumel. We've been worked with different actors. The objective is to increase the coverage of coral in Cozumel, to promote the rehabilitation of the ecosystemic ecosystems, and also have a vision of a active participation of society, or the active because we have the Acropora palmata as the species that is at risk, and we're looking at these populations. These is the population that's not species that is being endemic to this island, but we are going to see what results we've been having. We also have for this staghorn project, we have a team that is trained, a group of people, of multidisciplinary people of different lines of work, to be able to work all these activities, and they were trained by different organizations, by Central East, and she's mentioned the people there, or the organizations, and the restoration of this. So next slide, please. Once we have the knowledge, we start by doing the evaluation of the seeking of the Acropora around Cozumel to find out what it is. And there's So 2020 from 2023, we've had more than 4,445 coral in the west of the Cozumel Island. These colonies have been evaluated and they've been located where they are, where they're registered in their health and if they have mortality or if they have any other differences in health wise. Next crisis, we have found that very small from very large size of colonies. They've gone from 25 or 0 to all to the majority are between 50 and 150 with the main sign. Next slide, please. Our restorations with 3 sites that we selected. The Caletita beach is very close to the urban population, and it's very visited. It's very close to and very transparent waters without being inside protected area. The second one is the La Palmaca, which is in the Cozumel, and the next one is the Punta Molas is what we have doing in Cozumel, and it's the northernmost point of the island, and it has mini tourism area. These sites have been intervened with these projects, and there's a 4th location that is going to be intervened very close. It's called Paraíso within the national park. And these have been also evaluated and how they're doing it, how the growth of the Acropalmata is growing, and what we have seen, what we've had in the way of nature in those. And Acropalmata had in years past how it's been and how it is now. The evaluation has been through the coverage of coral, the vertebrated and invertebrated animals there, and the positions that we have. Next one, please. The repopulation of this, the technique that we're using for repopulating it is the assisted asexual reproduction through fragmentation. What we're doing with these restoration areas. So this is the first one that we've identified, 400 sites of coral in the area. They must be healthy. They must have a good morphology and have a good size, and make sure that they're not affected by fragmentation. We have come up with fragments that are 4 centimeters long, and we restore with them and base it with cement. We put it on the bottom after cleaning up. We put them on the bottom of the ocean and stick them on that. And once we have the cement there, we put the coral pieces on top, and they are then fixed to the coral reef. We plant about the 3 to 4 pieces in each patch of cement, and they're sisters of the same colony, so that they'll be accepted by the rest of the colony. We have a different survival rate of this. We have 840 fragments planted in Palmata, in Punta Molas 1,027, and in Caletita 873. And then once they form colony, it's been in La Palmata, the survival rate has been 98%. In Molas, we've had 83, and in Caletita 33. These are the causes of survival or mortality, if you would, in different, mainly the manipulation of from one side to another by transplantation. That's normal. That we have lost because of also in 2021, had a hurricane that came through the island and did a lot of damage as well. And of course, particularly in Putamolas, and that was a tremendous thing. We also have corals. We have conch in some in areas in La Caletita. There's also, they've been eating up the fragments as well. We have the quality of water. It's also affecting the growth rate of these corals. And we also have the nutritions to be able to, to have too much algae brought in, which also affects the structures. To be able to have those adequate structure, we have to clean it up. We also have here a start of an ecological start in Caletita. We also still have some parts that we have not increased coral cover, but in La Palmata we have more work that we've done of maintenance and work, and less stymied effects on this. So the Palmata has come up with almost in 10 square meters, and we've had no acropora. We've actually increased in Putamolas 2.5% in this year, and we hope to have a second expedition in that area. These are area photographs that we can see. That we can see the different colonies of Acropora that you can see with those. Please, the next slide. There we are. Here we have those arrows. We can identify that we have some of the growth of some of these new colonies. The next one here, of course, but all of us, we have to integrated restoration. We have to participate in different key actors. We've done some workshops, and we have other people who will talk a little bit more about it. We've done inclusion of the communities in the activities, or around these sites of restoration. So we've done 20 talks with more than 450 present at different of different ages and sectors. We've also had some signing, as you can see there on the pictures, so that they'll be able to know a little bit more information on the work that we do and have more conscious of how to look after these corals. So we have to also, without the collective restoration with different actors, as we see, like we coral lives, and we talked about with it in this project, but we have many areas as other organizations. We have a civil society, academic societies, and even private sectors that have also helped us with donations. This is what it's about collective restoration. That would be our work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Blanca. So we're all working together, and the importance of the community is noted. We continue with Cristina. Thank you very much for the invitation. As Blanca was mentioning, I'm going to continue with what we were talking about since the beginning of the restoration, focusing on a key aspect, which is community integration as a key element in the restoration of coral reefs. We talk a little bit about the efforts made in 2019 when the bleaching syndrome came to Cozumel. This also brought us together with people of different professions, asking ourselves what we could do, how we could participate. And so we were able to bring them all together in a collective to reinforce all the things that we needed to attend the emergency. Started with training as what a coral is, starting with that, and going out to identify these species and participate deeper into what were the requirements of the reefs at the time, until we came up with a prepared team to continue with the next stages. In 2020, this is when we started with the Ecological Restoration Initiative, where we could have more participation in coral reef restoration, seeking the different opportunities. We also wanted to go further and see what the problems were, identify the different problems too. Something very important for us here was that our sites for planting were very close to the coast. So we could see some different issues of how these anthropogenic activities were affecting. So what we were doing in the water would have no effect if we were not looking at what was happening on land. And we can see some of the colonies of Acropora palmata and how close they are to the coastal area. Some of the first exercises were to start doing these comparisons in our planting areas, as Blanca presented. On the left, we have the area of Caletita, which is out of the protected areas, and we can see the different development taking place, identify hotels, beach clubs, diving centers, what's happening with community beaches, what about the harbors. And on the right, we could see the site of the Palmata, which is in the Cozumel Reef National Park. And we can see the interventions that we have with because of the tourism in the area. And there are many organizations and Mar are all taking a look at this. And now looking at some of the results that Blanca has, we can see on the right, among many of the factors that we have, on the left, with the site shows 33% of survival in 2021 with Palmata. And more than seeking these problems, we're seeking to know what is being done well, what things can we replicate, and also to try to increase the colonies by February 2023. And we can see that there has been a lot of great growth, and these coral have actually grown a lot more than in the photo. The ecological restoration has to take place integrating the society, the community of live coral. We need not only one part of the community, but all the different local actors, the tourist developments, that how can they become participants through something called community science and also integrated an initiative part. And so that this is something that we can start to look at this throughout time and not just in the near future. And this is where we start a series of important talks to the community, but we need to look at a way to extend these talks to the social and private area, the classrooms, talks on the beach. And something very important is that this has brought together many volunteers that are now part of the collective, and they have strengthened these actions. And we have been able to notice that the restoration project needs active and trained people that are working throughout the time. All these efforts have helped us to strengthen the collective and start new actions, and not just take it to the level of talks or speeches, but go to participative dynamics, like creating awareness on the systemic reefs, ecosystemic reefs, and all the different uses of and needs, and identify the problems and possible actions from the point of view of the community, identify possible problems and actions in the sites to be able to be part of the issue. These are pilot actions that we are developing during these months, and they're giving us many tools that come from the vision of the community. How, for example, how we work on the sargassum, on near planting areas. These areas are tourist attractions. How do we prevent the arrival of future tourists into these areas? How can we come up with better strategies, sustainable strategies, strengthen our environmental education? So on my behalf, well, this is all. And then I thank you very much from the Cozumel Colectivo. And if you would like to know more about it, we are always open and we need many hands to work with us. Thank you very much, Christina. Very interesting. We see the importance of the people, the importance of working together, of restoration. And let's get to work. Sara, welcome. Here we have the presentation from INAPESCA. As I commented before, Claudia Padilla is not able to be here. She's working. She's in the field today doing a rescue of coral in Banco Chichorro, where less than a month ago, the stony coral disease was detected. And so, as I said, we are working and we are actually talking about how important it is to have people available and work together to be able to attend these emergencies. Sarah, are you there? My name is Sara Gutierrez. I work with Doctora Claudia, and I have been part of the rescue and safeguarding of the colonies affected by this disease. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. So we know that this disease has affected different areas, almost all of the hard stony corals. And there has been a reduction, incredible reduction of the populations, almost to extinction of many species. So the alarms went on. We said, what's happening? We have to do something. And through this project and with many people helping us, we started to structure something. So then within the action plan for responding to this disease, as I said, there were many different organizations that got together, UNAM, Healthy Reef, INAPESCA, and etc. And we said, what can we do to address this enormous problem? So one was to cultivate live tissue, to rescue those that were healthy or the ones that were diseased, but we could treat them. And so we were working together, especially with the UNAM lab. So the first thing that happened was this collective getting together, a call not only to scientists, but to all the divers, all the people that were in the water to find these colonies that were more susceptible to this disease, because it was necessary to work very quickly, and there are very few of us, and to engage everybody who is in the water. And so these infographics were made to ask people to help us to find these colonies. So the rescue process was quite simple, if I could say that. It was to find healthy colonies, take out fragments from these, and to have them in a pesca. And what we wanted to do was to have keep these colonies and cultivate them, and to be able to reproduce them, as to spawn them in captivity. And so working together, we were able to have this cryopreservation activities so that we could have these species last longer. But in Ina Pesca, we also focused mainly on rescuing the colonies that were affected by this species like the Meandrina, Corpophilias, etc., and some more common like Orbitellus and a little bit of all. And we did rescue efforts. We had some follow-up, and then they'd go into intense quarantine where my partners worked very hard to maintain the well-being of these colonies, not just maintain them in optimal conditions so they would survive, but also if they found the disease to give them the necessary treatment so that they could heal and preserve these important colonies. The results of the projects were quite positive, actually. If we think about how this disease impacted the colonies, for example, in the pillar coral and some of the others, and here are the colonies that were able to be rescued and the collaborators that engaged in rescuing. So unfortunately, the work does not end here because, as you know, Banco Chinchorro is where this disease was detected more than 3 months ago, and that was the last report. And now part of the team is out there trying to rescue what is left because mortality has been terrible. These are photographs of the made by the lab in Inam, and we can see that in less than 2 weeks, whole colonies of susceptible species had been lost. So we are continuing with this effort of protecting, taking care of, and safeguarding, and looking after the few corals that are left. And we hope that when they are returned to the colonies, we will talk about what the results were and what happened and what was achieved. So the last is to thank you for this opportunity. Claudia says that she's very sorry that she can't be here, but she's away because of a good cause. So thank you very much, Sarah, for being here with us. It was a pleasure. And we are really waiting for the news of how this reef continues in Banco Chinchorro. Thank you very much.
Anastasia, you're on now. Here she is. Thank you. Hello, good morning to everybody. Thank you for the invitation, and Elisa, particularly for the support she gives us. Next slide, please. Is this a PDF? Or he says, no, this is a presentation. Thank you very much. Yes, here we go. Here in Coralia, we doing the reproduction of corals. What we have to do, so we have to, we collect the spawning, those little sperma that liberated is served types of evenings particularly in the summer, and we fertilize it or cultivate it with assisted fertilization until they're settled and they start to grow as a polyp and to divide itself. And then we taking care of it in our installations, and then the monitoring, and then we we planted in the in the coral, and then they monitor to see how successful we have been in our work. We have also cryoconservation, where we also take care of spawning to collect our sperm. We still have not been able to freeze them successfully, but we do do it to be able to do so in the future. And so we do have frozen spermas that we've to do it with the assisted fertilization to see if we have differences or not in corals that are with fresh or frozen sperm. So we'll see the difference if there is one. Next slide. I don't see the slide. So basically, also, we are training people of different parts of the world that comes to our laboratory to come and tend and to see our techniques. There's a little bit of, unfortunately, of a connection that's not right. And so we support our techniques of low cost, because finally the resources that we have are then they are limited to be able to do all these laboratory works, and we have a lot of area to be able to address. And so our team is always to look for low cost procedures. Next slide, please. Here we go. There's one. Yes. So therefore, we did have it, and then it returned. Basically, what we have as what we've been able to achieve. Much of our work is in collaborating with. Can you go to the next slide, please? Basically, we collaborate with the different groups of monitoring different species, and we go from one Cancun all the way to Punta Alan. This allows us to work with different species at different sites. Okay, we're switching around here. So we have spawning from data from 2007 until 2023 when they started this year. And with this group of data that we have, we see what the Mexican Caribbean can do in this area in 2023. Next slide, please. Thank you. This is the what we have. We have also have the spawning, and we have assisted fertilization. The first is to scale up the systems of, you can see on the left, those are installations that we meet the sperm with the embryons, and they actually go with when they have we do move it on to next installations that we have with natural life, where we have the recruits, as it were. We have some. Can I have the next one, please? We talk it to the. We are then to send it into the field. The most important thing is that we've had the project subject is to close the serial the cycle for the populations, and we've been able to do so on the laboratory, and we have been able to plant areas, and we were here in Cancun, and we've others that we have in Puerto Morelos. They're already 8 years old, and they're also being reproducing themselves. So we have we make it so self-sufficient. Next one. On the right, those are the fragments of a colony in Cancun, and we've already had. It's also had have reproduction ability. So and these are examples of the species that we have. The Fabiolata, as we can see, Labyrintiforme on the right, Orvis flatis on the right. But down below we have, and Florio silveta on the right. Those are the 5 species that we've worked with. We want to continue with the species because they are the builders of reefs. Next one, please. And in terms of the results that we've had of the bio repository and of the coral Mexican, we have been able to restore 6 species of different habitats, and we'll be able to see that we have a representative of our deposits, and we have also worked with larva that is vitrified. So it's another technique that we think we can have a lot of success in this, and in the next few years we hope to be able to try to work much closer with larvae and have more species in our laboratory, and for able to assimilate more things in the future. Next slide, please. And therefore, just to share to end our laboratory or corallium is to restoration of the coral reefs, and so thank you very much. Thank you, Natalie, and please excuse the connections that weren't working properly, but it was very, very good. Thank you. It was very good. Thank you. We're learning new techniques, and they are working. So we've got backup, and we've got actions and options to be able to do things. So that's very, very exciting. Thank you very much, Anastasia. We're going to start with Melina now, Melina Soto. Thank you very much for the presentation. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the initiative of Healthy Reef for Healthy People, and that does some different restorations of the coral reefs in the Mesoamerican reefs. The next one, as you've seen with the presentations we've had, we have a lot of the initiatives of Healthy Reef for Healthy People have been very, very large. We have 4 countries in Belize, Mexico, and Honduras, and we are presenting this space. There we have more than 60 academies and social society and private enterprises, as well as other institutions, to be able to know a little bit more of what we do. Next slide, please. We have known, if you would, for monitoring in the Mesoamerican Reef, and the reports that we put out every couple of years, the monitoring of how the status of, and we make recommendations. I still see the same first slide after the next one. I don't know if everybody else sees that as well. So therefore, it's an information based upon science, and that is available, obviously. The next slide, please. In our site. Next slide, please. But we also have, I wanted to also comment to people that are working with restoration, or is thinking about working with restoration, that in the website of the Healthy Reef site, we have of how Agra was the a rapid system of how to be able to measure. As we can see here on what you can see where you can snorkel and dive in these different sites, and see the next slide, please. But we can also see the different status or health of the different places that we be able to do, and you'll be able to do so. Next two ones, please. The next two slides, please, to be able to see where the intervention is, or where we must have to have an interesting site to have new reproduction. Two slides on, please. So if other people are seeing it, I wanted to find out if they can see what I see, or how the complication is. We are still in the reports, yes, and we've already we were the healthy reef, and I also wanted to show a little bit more about Agra, what we do, and what the tools we have to be able to do the measurements that we do. Particularly that, because that's a lot of information that can be generate information, and you can also put up more information and make all these platforms richer as well. One slide more, please. In the Agras, the information that they have at the Caribbean level. So it's very important that Agra, you look at it, because it's in the whole Gulf region, if you would. And we can see, for example, you can look up something by species, and looking at particularly some of the species that are susceptible or for the stony coral, tissue loss, or whatever you want to. So therefore, we can see it, and it's very, very pretty. So here we are. So we can see the different species that way, with this tool that we put up on our web page, and what are susceptible to different diseases, and which are the reef builders, if you would. And so therefore, we would see it to be very, very useful for the information to be able to see how the restoration programs are. Next slide, please. Here we have the Agra coral dashboard, and the next one is based upon our information. We can see how we are losing cover of coral, particularly in the constructors of reefs. So we must recover those coverage on the reef. So we have to see how we can design in the next year. The coverage of macroalgae is growing, so we must be very good. So we have to work on this, because we are not going to stop. We're going to work with all we're going to see how we can help in coral restoration, which is what we are doing today. What we try to do is to try to present the favorable and unfavorable situations to see how macroalgae is spreading. Next slide, please. So working about reducing the macroalgae, we can see one of the first projects that we did, or the goals that we came up with as a group, was the protection of parrotfish, because it's very important to protect these, because they are the herbivores of the coral. So we have been able to do so. The first lessons that we have is with 4 countries that have to protect these, at least for the first ones, and not protecting the coral, the parrotfish. And in 2009, we have different countries also of the SAM area, and Mexico was the last one, but it was, yeah, the protection is very special because it's within the protected area species of the countries now in Mexico. So it's a it's a highest protection that has been done so far in Mexico. I don't see anything now, but yes, okay. The Baruchs came out too. But anyway, we have, here we go, the first transboundary region to protect parrotfish. So we really have, we must protect them, get rid of these macroalgae, protect against them as we be able to do. So achieving, be able to say, if you comment, I've already said what's said. Next slide, please. Another strategy is an overlook is to be able to come up with pilot projects. And one is to have this crab, you'll be able to see it, some presentation that we have the different institutions that are doing it with this, with the logo at the bottom of the screen. You can see and Sarah just talked about it as she's projecting of the king crab of Mexico. Next one, please. We have had quite a bit of we've been able to we understand the reproduction of the crab to be able to have a pregnant female to have all their offspring, and we are at this point where we're doing some research to see how these king crabs can produce that produced in the areas can also help us with the restoration of corals with the effect of macroalgae, because they are the ones that are helping this area. This is a project that is very super interesting, and we will continue to communicate on this area. Next slide, please. So also is to also the reducing contaminants entry into MAR. Our urgent challenge is that, and all our colleagues that are doing it, and this is, but must we know that everything, the elephant in the area is in the quality of the water, because everything is connected. So we're very working with public institutions to be able to come up with laws and regulations to improve the quality of water. And we are founders of the water is our right, to be able to come up with, to communicate of what we can do the work of incidents in this area. So next slide, please. And we do this at the level of the 4 countries, and we also we have also expanded to, we've also included in other countries of the Caribbean region as well. We've done incidents to be able to adopt the standards of the protocol of Cartagena to be able to do so. And in Mexico, we've been able to integrate the standards in the 001 code that is very similar to us, and we've added it to the regulations of our peninsula of Yucatan. And we are working in watersheds of the 4 countries, watershed committees in the 4 countries, and we're working on this areas in the Chamber of Waters of the area, and in other, we will also share with you, we have also coordinated with our colleagues of sentinels of the water, and there's many, but I don't tell you all that you might forget. But yes, the 3 countries that we've been able to do monitoring of quality of water in the reef, and in also the coastal areas, and in Mexico and Honduras, we are heading for that, and we hope that that will go forward. The next slide is the last one. So thank you very much to the work that we've been doing here to be able to work on the Myanmar region, to be able to address this decade of restoration, to be able to say that we will continue to work from our trenches to be able to see how we can protect the corals and go hand in hand towards it. And we hope to plant many new seeds to go forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Melina. And I'm sorry, but for the mistakes, technical mistakes, the photos are so beautiful that I think my computer didn't want to work with them. But apologize for anything. And thank you so much, Melina. If people have missed any of the slides, we're going to be sharing them all on our social network and on our webpage, so you will not miss anything. I will try to share Juan Carlos's presentation because he said he had animation. And I will try to do it. And if I can't, I will put it on a PDF. Go ahead, Juan Carlos. I can't see anything. Shall I share the presentation? Says Juan Carlos. Yes, they're quite heavy. Okay. So would you like me to present, to share? If you can, please do. If not, I have the PDF. Okay, so we see the presenter's modality. We're talking about how to make the change. Mhm. Okay, very good. All is ready. Good afternoon to all. Thank you for the invitation to Marfund. And I will be talking about what we have done for training community brigades for rescuing coral after the damages caused by some hurricanes in the Mesoamerican Reef system. As most of the people here know, there are different types of threats that affect the different reefs. We have many different pressures that are causing chronic mortality from several decades back. And it's important to say that there is a local scale pressure, there's regional and global, and hurricanes come under the global scale. And even though it is a natural event, but their frequency and intensity have been increasing. And the reefs do not recover simply as they used to because of all the different pressure that we have caused with our human activities. For this reason, in 2018, TNC prepared a protocol of early warning response for engaging several people to attend this protocol. This has been published, and in 2021, the first insurance policy was acquired for the center and north of Quintana Roo, Mexico. And the idea is to have resources arrive quickly so that the brigaders can start the rescue as soon as possibly after the hurricane or storm. And so little by little, the MAR has had has actually covered more and more places with these insurance policies. And the communities have also been the active part of the mitigation of these activities if we have the resources present to do so. So the first brigades, based on the protocol, were formed in 2018 and 2019 in Puerto Morelos. The first was there, and then it continued in 2019 in Isla Mujeres. Several brigaders were trained and participated in rescue actions after the hurricane in Puerto Morelos, for example, with Zeta and Delta hurricanes in 2020. In 2021, MARFON made a call for training more brigades among the 4 countries of the MAR. And so there we have had 2 courses in San Pedro, Belize, 2 in Mahahual, Mexico, 2 in Roatan, Honduras, 1 in Tela, and 1 in Puerto Barrios, Guatemala recently. And apart from forming brigaders, we are also training instructors for brigades. And to date, we have 161 trained brigaders and 17 instructors. Here are some of the photographs of the last course we had in Guatemala. So what are these courses? What do they include? In principle, the course is divided in a theoretical phase where people learn the basic concept on the biology of corals. They learn how to classify the damages caused by a hurricane. They learn about the actions of primary response, moving the debris, and then they learn some actions of primary response. In the practical phase, in first place, we evaluate the people, what are their water skills, use of GPS, basic knots to tie diverse objects. They learn how to use a pneumatic drill underwater, how to use a raising bag to raise objects of coral, how to prepare cement adequately, to use it underwater, and finally the stabilization skills for cement and other things. At the end of the course, a written evaluation is made for the brigaders, and then a practical evaluation takes place. In the practical evaluation, they usually are given a challenge that they have to do, and this usually implies live corals to be planted somewhere on the reef in the area, obviously with the permission of the authorities in each one of the countries. And these are, up to now, part of the partners, the collaborators in the 4 countries where we have had courses, and we are preparing the next course, which starts on Monday in Roatan. It's a course for training brigaders. And some of the lesson learned I'd like to share with you is that after all these years, 5 years of courses, there is an important conclusion where training brigaders is very important. However, since the hurricane events, we don't know when they're going to happen. It could be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Well, the brigaders may not be available after 5 years. So it's not possible to have courses every year. So the option that's being established with MARFOND and TNC is to try to form more instructors, brigade instructors, and these instructors in each site or area will be available or could be available to train people when the hurricane is approaching, and then they can train them then, and maybe not, instead of training people that maybe have the intention and the heart to really offer their support. But if this happens 5 years later, maybe they're not available or they have left the location. So this is something that we have been making notes of. Belize also had an event that they attended. They formed their brigades. And from all the brigades, few people actually were able to actually be present at the moment of the event. So it's not just about training the brigades, but people that can actually transmit their knowledge, transfer their knowledge to others when the event is happening. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Juan Carlos. This is a very important subject, and soon you're going to hear more from our fund about new training. So we are at your disposal. Thank you very much. So now we're going to ask Dominique to speak. We're going to give you the co-host, Dominique. Carla or Lucy, can you help me? For Dominique to be able to make her presentation.
Okay. All right, and everybody can do the screen, right? Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Happy World Oceans Day. We have, so thank you, Marfan, for inviting us to be a part of this forum and presenting our results of our project. So we have in Belize, our Belize Barrier Reef Reserve system is very important to us economically and ecologically for the approximate 190,000 Belizeans who depend on the coral reef resources through tourism and the fishing industry primarily. And so the work of Belize Audubon Society in doing our part in addressing the impact of the stony coral tissue loss disease in the Lighthouse Reef Atoll where we work was of utmost importance for all our stakeholders that depend on the resources there. So within the Lighthouse Reef Atoll, we have two of Belize's most outstanding marine protected areas that we co-manage, the Half Moon Cay Blue Hole Natural Monument and the Half Moon Cay Natural Monument and the Blue Hole Natural Monument. So through our project, we had 4 core interventions. The first one covering coral monitoring and treatment, followed by environmental education and awareness. In Belize, the stony coral tissue loss disease was detected in 2019 and in our area in 2020. And so there was little information out there within our stakeholders. And so we had to include this environmental education component to share information to our stakeholders and our partners. We don't, I think it was the previous 2 presenters, we don't have a lot of people in Belize that was trained at the time. And so we had to do capacity building of our staff and stakeholders, our community stakeholders that we work with in identifying the stony coral tissue loss disease, and then of course the subsequent treatment that required. And we did that through several trainings. And then lastly, as Melina mentioned, in terms of data sharing, we shared our information, some of our findings on the AGRA website on the dashboard. And so some information for Lighthouse Reef Atoll is there. And I'll go through each of these in a little bit. So the first one, in looking at the reef monitoring, prior to the treatment efforts, we had just over 4,000 colonies that were assessed at 12 sites across the Lighthouse Reef Atoll, as you can see there on the right-hand side of your screen. The disease was first detected at the northernmost tip of the Lighthouse Reef Atoll, all the way up here And our base is down here at the heel of the atoll at Half Moon Cay, so it's quite a distance away. So from those first assessments that we did from these 12 sites, we had 73% of the corals that appeared healthy, 16% that exhibited stony coral tissue loss disease lesions, and 11% that had been afflicted, 100% mortality due to SCTLD. As noted in one of the previous presentations, of course, as the disease indicates, it affects the stony corals. And so those that had the highest susceptibility and the greatest disease prevalence for Lighthouse Reef Atoll were the meandrites, the fasciculata, and the cylindros. So those were what we noted with the highest, those that were most affected. And as you can see, the two protected areas, so Half Moon Cay is down here, our boundaries do not extend much larger than that. And then Half Moon Cay Blue Hole here in the center, even though our direct responsibilities and jurisdiction are within those two protected areas, we do work throughout the entire Lighthouse Reef Atoll doing our marine monitoring work. We did a complementary study on the benthic assessment for our identified sites. And so we did one in 2021 and 2022 just for comparison. And the 2022 results show that we had 22% live coral cover at Lighthouse Reef Atoll. However, as indicated in the HRI report card for our area, we had, and it complemented with the results from the benthic assessment, we had a decrease in herbivorous fishes. And so that is, of course, cause for concern, which was directly attributed, the increase in macroalgae could be a direct attribution to the reduction in the herbivorous fish. So I'm really excited about these opportunities that I heard about before in terms of the king crab project and all the great work that you guys are doing in coral restoration. In terms of the treatment, we had 9 sites that we monitored in looking at 191 corals that were treated. And the sites that we selected were really based on the importance for tourism stakeholders. We have just about 500 fishermen that are dependent on that area for fishing for their livelihoods. And we also selected areas that had greater coral cover to address those key areas that we did not want to lose. And so in looking at the species that were treated, that had the most abundance in terms of treated, we have those 2, the Peaster and the MCAV. And if you look at the graph at the bottom, the 4 locations that have the star, those are our highest highly visited tourism sites. And so we focused on those areas, and the other areas within the atoll are areas that we have our fishermen that are dependent on those areas. And so collecting this information was important for the next component of our project. And in looking at the effectiveness, I have an image there on the right-hand side. The total number of treatments that we had to apply varied from 1 to 3 applications. And so in the first image on the top, you could see that the treatment was applied on 7th of March, 2022, and just about, about a month later, we could see that the area, the brown part, did not die. And so just showing that the treatment was effective in having further spread of the disease. And it's similar for the image at the bottom. In looking at the total that we were able to treat, we had 29 colonies that were documented to have successful treatment after two visits. The remainder were randomly treated, and some of them needed more than 2 applications. We had a maximum of 3 for some areas. And one of the challenge in treating the corals, one is the location. Lighthouse Reef Atoll is 55 miles east of mainland Belize. And so getting out there and having constant staff to be able to apply treatment was challenging for us. And of course, the rate of spread of the disease, I guess for all of us that have been involved in the treatment, moved faster than we were able to be able to respond. And so that posed a challenge in terms of the continuous monitoring and treatment. In the awareness component, in sharing information, we developed different educational tools, flyers, booklet, some focusing on stony coral tissue loss disease, and the one there you can see in the center, focusing primarily on the grazers, which are important in terms of reducing the increase in fleshy macroalgae. All these were distributed to our stakeholders, students that we worked with, parents, our tourism stakeholders who use the Lighthouse Reef Atoll on a daily basis, and as well as our conservation partners. Belize Audubon Society is a part of the Marine Monitoring Network for coral, among others. And so this information was shared with our different partners and community members, schools that we work with as well. In fostering responsible stewardship, we had different methods where the first one, the first image on the left is a young man, student from the community that we work with. And so we thought it best to have youths that we are already working with through our Reef Protectors program, for them to be the ambassadors in their communities, sharing information. They share the information in Spanish, given that that's their primary language up in the northern communities of Belize. And so we went through the process of training them in terms of the information, how to deliver the information. And so they took the flyers that were developed and then went community to community, house to house, and sharing that information with the fishers in their downtime. And so that was one method that we employed. The pictures at the bottom is through a program that Belize Audubon Society pioneered called the Boat to Boat. And this is an intervention where we go out to the fishers on their fishing turf while they're out at Lighthouse Reef Atoll, just to have a quick chat with them, sharing information, gathering information from them as well in terms of what they're seeing out there. They're out there every day fishing, so they also serve as our eyes and ears and sharing information with us, and we can give quick little updates on research work that we're doing, monitoring work, and any new information in terms of concerns that would threaten their livelihoods. We also worked a lot with the primary schools, the elementary schools in these communities. And so one activity there, they had a in September, we celebrate our independence. And so they had a carnival, and it was a good opportunity for us to reach more people and creating awareness about marine conservation and the stony coral tissue loss disease and reef fish. And then lastly, at the bottom, our tourism stakeholders are also important. They depend on us as good protected areas managers in maintaining the integrity of these protected areas, but as well, they bring income to us. And so it's a two-way relationship in terms of both parties benefiting. So we had over 496 people that were engaged through this process over the course of our one-year project. And lastly, here we have capacity building. So to be able to do the work, the monitoring and the treatment, we had staff that were trained in specifically identification, because they were the ones leading the monitoring and the treatment application as well. The students that we worked with, we went through various trainings of stony coral tissue loss disease, marine conservation monitoring work that we do, conch and lobster, and as well as doing sessions with them life skills. So these are high school age students who will be either entering the fishing industry or moving on with their academic career. And so giving them information and training and in this field gives them a cutting edge amongst other students that they will be able to volunteer at NGOs or other agencies, helping out with NGOs that are surrounding in their communities, as well as giving them valuable information and experience if they were to become a teacher or even becoming a fisherman. The hope is that they will be responsible fishers. And the diving is also an opportunity for them to come back and help us when we're doing future monitoring activities, that they're trained and capable marine monitoring assistants for our marine biologists. And so we had over 20 people trained in various areas. So that's it. If anyone have any information or would like more, I have asked Elisa, I think we can put the, we have a much longer presentation on our project from the link, and we could share that with everyone. So thank you. I'm looking forward to these opportunities, coral restoration that I saw, because we do have areas that need restoration, and that king crab project. Stop sharing.
Thank you. De Laura otra vez para ver si se escucha y así los panelistas pueden ir por un poco de agua y nuestros participantes
And our participants then can participate on with the chat with questions with these to be able to answer these questions. Thank you. I'm going to start with a question first. Much of the colleagues so she's repeating it in English. And after be selected, how do they train them, and how long is the training, and anybody wants to talk about this, it's free. You can decide. They are all the community members. I've got one for Juan Carlos afterwards. Those are the questions for the panel. Somebody asked. Yes, when this is also 15 minutes can be over. So I'd much rather answer the questions that are placed by the public. I don't want to duplicate time, so please go right ahead. On the brigades, Juan Carlos, can you answer it? In each community and each locality, local place, they receive, particularly with MAR, and we have public open divers invitations of the communities, but we require certain things to be able to train them. For example, one of them is that we have need that has an advanced certification for dive masters. At least if they're advanced, if that is sufficient for them. How much? It's for the 5 day of the training, and it's no cost. The first is theory, and there are 3 practical days, and the last day is the final evaluation of the brigade. I don't know if there's any further questions regarding this. Thank you, Juan Carlos. And regarding the communities in general, Christina or Baruch might want to, or somebody else might want to answer that regarding. Thank you. At the community, we have first filter. We have the questionnaire to find out what they're interested in, the different activities. That if it's for snorkel, if for diving. So we must have the security foremost to be able to train and strengthen the group. And finally, also they have the interest that have volunteered for a few days because they're passing through. Others are more committed because they want to do for different organizations. And so, for example, with AGRA courses that our colleagues should become more trained, and we go into community development that way. Thank you, Christina. That's what we have to do. The first thing is to get near, to make yourself available, to be able to come up with, to see if they're what kind of training they will have. If they go directly into brigades, there's certain specific things, or with each organization or entity, you can go forward. And we've always tried to find the email address for the participants and the panelists, so we can also send to all the participants with all the information of email addresses, so that each person can communicate with the person that they'd be interested in communicating with. So we'll see. There's another question. How are you going to evaluate the talking about the Facebook? How you have the sites that we have, because you said with photographs, they're very positive. So can you, so Anastasia says with pleasure, there's certain mortality rate, there is, as always happens, including with the natural recruits as well. But yes, we are seeing quite a bit of growth, and we have a success rate of 84%, which is much greater than in natural recruiting. So they're growing very well. Some of them of our recruits are also in mature colonies, and they're sufficient. So in that regarding, we think we have been very successful. And we have to have a lot of patience, he says. Yes, says Anastasia, says, yes, they grow very slowly, but they also working in techniques that would actually participate in strengthening their growth rapidly. Is there anybody else who would like to add anything to it? Baruch, go ahead. Yes, regarding the community involvement on the project. For example, in Akumal, we have generated a scheme of a restoration committee that that hotels and dive centers and all of them are working together, that we're to participate in the projects. And they themselves internally, they select the people of what we say, the leaders for restoration that we call it, to all the ones that are going to be training the people that are going to be working as our allies. And that's how it works locally at the level of the community, the local community. And we also have, as Christina says, we have volunteers. We have the general people that can come in and become part of it. So yes, we also have depending on the availability and their capacities, their abilities, their skills to be able to do so. But practically, the restoration has a lot of research that has to be done and monitoring as well. It is not rocket science, so we can capacitate anybody who wants to do so and that has the skills in the water to be able to participate in one of the components. So we're constantly training people that want to support us. And so we filter them and we try to locate them and train them and put them in the right places. And we can do so with the communities, yes. Thank you, Baruch. Yes, clearly, yes, is what I said at the beginning. We must come close and work in conjunction with everybody that everybody in their presentation has said. So in each community, in each little hamlet, there's availability. There's in some places more than others, but we always want to help, and we're available to be able to help in other ways we can. With the MAR fund. So Juan Carlos, we can also mention a little bit more on the brigades, that how do we invite them? How can they can register to be able to become volunteers, or how they must have penned, because MAR fund, we publish these areas in our networks. We publish the dates for these trainings, and you can see it there. So thank you very much. Juan Carlos says, yes, the invitations is we must be the brigades, but there is another opportunity apart from the brigades, because each country we have brigade trainers, so they can be, so they've independently in each country. So if anybody wants to go into one of those, it doesn't have to be one with MARFund. They can contact these trainers and suggest for something. For example, in Mexico, Guatemala, and Belize and Guatemala, on the 4 countries we have trainers that can be able to do. For example, we can see on Monday there'll be an instructor, one for Mexico, one for Guatemala, and one for Honduras in each one of the countries. Thank you, Juan Carlos. Here's our network. If you want to write to us and contact us, we are here. Our webpage here also to be able to listen to this very interesting panel and have all the information on our panelists that came in later, or the connection wasn't right, or the presentations weren't complete. We have that all there. And again, our apologies for anything we've done wrong. And we've had some surveys for the public. Please fill out these surveys. Thank you very much, and we thank you very much. And we're going to share with you a little game that you can continue with our work forward. Continuing with our grain of salt or sand, as it's in Spanish, to be able to work with the conjunction with everybody to be able to have all the successes that we've been able to share today. I'm going to share with some more questions, but I know some panelists that must leave to the event because they have to go because they have other occupations that we ask them and always have their email address. If there's any ones that we can't answer, we can share those questions in their emails. I don't know if you can be able to know it. So thank you very much. With our panels and be able to, we're very happy to be here. So we must have this event again. We must share all this very important work that's doing. So what else? We're going to see some additional questions here. Christina. We've already answered. Thank you very much on our communities and community work. I don't know if you have any additional questions. Thank you. Yes, Anastasia, to anybody, yes, we are always here at your service. Here we have, let's see. I want to answer the questions myself, but I want to, so thank you very much, all of you. What are the next steps? And you mentioned it because we want to talk to us again, so all of us can listen to it with your words, and also Sarah can also mention, of course. Elisa says, thank you for Sarah and for everybody for coming and joining us. We have already achieved having adults that are recruits that are still reproducing, but the numbers are very, very low yet. They're not going to the numbers that we want to do, and we have a long way to go to have this more results and improvements. But we have about 50 adults for each one of the larva harvest that we have. So it's leads at least, it has to be another income information, but we see how we can improve the conditions of aquaculture to be able to succeed with a project that is functioning together with the restoration of corals and reefs. That has to be something that is integrated to be able to add this helping in quotes component that this can there's a lot of fragments that there's a lot of things that different techniques that Anastasia were talking about. So we have we have a lot of work to be done in the coral to increase, and we would like to see where we. I don't know if Sarah, if you want to add something, or anybody else. I think you said it all, and we are going to into the techniques to identify what functions, what doesn't function, and there's some of them that is very new and we don't know what's happening. So we're learning as we're going forward. Thank you very much. Yes, these research that we've done, the new techniques, the works that are being done are all added together, and they all add one to the other. I don't know if we want to close now with the importance of the research to be able to protect our resources and to be able to protect the Mesoamerican Reef and our little corals, what we want to do for the restoration of the conservation. We're talking about research, so community support, interinstitutional support, interinstitutional and intrainstitutional as well. What else can we do? What do you recommend that we do? What's that? What came in? What do you recommend to us? Who wants to answer that? Who wants to recommend? What can we do for the next step? Blanca, please go right ahead. Blanca, please go ahead. Thank you. Yes, I want to add also answering a question that says what we do for the conservation. What career for this is we must integrate everybody. All the careers can come into this area, both from engineering to economy to restoring everything, from the treatment of residual waters or of served waters, chemicals, creams, more amicable, less damaging constructions that are also there regarding the climate change. There's many opportunities that we have, and each one of the careers, and that's what we do want to invite and involve everybody to come in. And this change and this conservation that we're doing too, and also seeing what more the biologists, of course, also. But this is what we have said. Christina says we have people of design, graphic design. We have people by volunteers. We have people that are already retired that is also doing it. So we have lots of things that we can do. The important is that they know how to swim. Not necessarily. No, because the engineering they can do it, construction with better technology, but you know, on land. So better treatment of sewage water. So you don't have to go into water, but you should know, yes, about reefs. Thank you, Melina. Also, the next question that we're talking about, or we're repeating what Blanca just said, is that there's a lot of initiatives. I think in the Mesoamerican Reef is a hotspot for hope cities, sites, and hopefully it's very successful sites for coral reproduction. So what we have to do, of all of us, from the different trenches that we have, as we said, maintain and restore the conditions, the favorable condition that has to do very urgently the climate change challenge that we have. We have this road to know that the reef of the world, including the ones that are restored, they're going to have more challenges to be able to grow or even to exist or develop. So yes, climate change is the subject, and it's really the elephant in the room. So we must all address the and also be careful of how we're doing our consumption, and also have what our print is, what the use of plastics, and what it says. So help all our products, if you would, were our treatment of waters, that we have to be that nobody is in drainage, and there's a continued with obsolete treatment plants that doesn't look into the third, and that does not guarantee the quality of water in the treatment plants that are here. It is not adequate for the reef. So we depend upon that, those ecosystems. So we are ourselves damaging ourselves. Thank you, Melina. There is responsible with the environment and with our resources. We're going to close, and we know that all of you are with a lot of work and other. So we're going to close with Laura's video that we can see it. And also, so thank every one of the participants and our panels, particularly. Please follow up on ours, and let's add efforts together. That was the idea today. That's very important to how on this Ocean Day, how we can address the challenges that we have, and also reproducing all the successes that we've had in the regions. Thank you very much. You are our future, and you are teaching others, the others, younger generations, the respect for it. So thank you very much. I'm going to see if we can put the video on now and close with it. With a gold thing. So here we go. Can you listen to it? No, we can't hear it. Share sound, please. Okay, we did. The last one we did listen to something. So what did you do? Sound is not coming through.
Think that we can't hear the video. Sorry. We're going to share it on our social network and on our webpage. I'm sorry about the sound. Just follow us for more information. And if you can answer the questions at the end of the panel, play with us at the end of the panel if you would like to. If anyone has any more questions, and if not, we are going to close this event. Thank you very much. Big hug to everybody. A lot of success in your work, and work hard as you have been doing up to now. Continue, and together we can fulfill our goals of recovering our our reefs and having them last more than 100 years. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.